To combat burnout in Warframe, I tried several games these past few months. Just like what I have said in my recent video, it's better to play other games than to just scream no content in Warframe. We should treat Warframe as a seasonal game, and let us not force digital extremes into rushing content. The game is not dying. The developers just need to focus on releasing content. So I played many games and even delved into a different gaming genre, action RPG, with Diablo 4. The only problem, though, is that I can't seem to get myself committed to other games at the moment. I even tried getting back to playing Apex Legends, Dota 2, Total Warhammer, Black Desert, No Man's Sky Monster Hunter World, Cyberpunk 2077, and even tried Destiny 2 for about 30 minutes, but eventually uninstalled it. I just can't commit to a game with such greedy monetization, and Diablo 4 is turning the same way, so I stopped playing it for a while. Long story short, all the games I have tried did not feel like I was just playing Warframe in another setting. Don't get me wrong, all the games I have played in the past few months are good in their own way, but I just want something like Warframe. The grind, the build experimentation, the movement, the sci-fi style gameplay, the cool cosmetics and all those features that Warframe has. There was one game I played last year that is a combination of Warframe and Destiny 2, and honestly, this was the game that I have been looking for. Not as a Warframe replacement, but something that I can play while there's no content in Warframe. The good news is, you can do the same as it's free to play and doesn't cost any dime to access the game. Also, it's turning into Warframe 2, as it has lots of similarities to the game we love. The game I'm talking about here is called The First Descendant, a free-to-play, third-person cooperative action RPG shooter that feels exactly like Warframe in so many ways. The only thing that is different between Warframe and The First Descendant is movement. Warframe has flawless movement and all that parkour stuff, while The First Descendant only has a grappling hook for movement. However, this doesn't mean that the movement is bad in The First Descendant. All I'm saying is that the movement of Warframe is just unmatched. So how is this similar to Warframe? Okay, let me give you the details, but before that I would just like to say that all the things you will see here are not just story crafting, as I also played the beta of the game last year. I have experienced how the game works in terms of gameplay and features, and the only thing we didn't have information about during the beta is how monetization works for this free-to-play game. We will discuss that further later, but for now let me give you some examples of why I think you will love this game if you are playing Warframe. First of all, the classes are very similar. Each class has 4 active abilities, with 1 passive. If you have played the beta, then you will feel like you have just played your favorite Warframe with a different skin in a different world. So, Lepic is just a ranged Excalibur. This is one of the starting classes you can choose in The First Descendant, and it's like Excalibur that has crowd control instead of using an exalted blade. Your hands turn into an arm cannon when you activate your ultimate ability. Then we got Ajax, which is Rhino. This is a super tanky Descendant and somehow preferred by many when it comes to solo plays. We also got Viessa, who is actually Frost in The First Descendant. This female Frost uses her ice power to crowd control and kill targets. Then we have Jaber, which is the male version of Protea that uses turrets to heal you and your allies or kill enemies. There's also Sharon, a combination of Loki and Ashe, with the stealth gameplay perfectly dubbed as the Assassin Descendant. We also have Blood Queen Garuda in the form of Glay, who uses some sort of blood magic to go berserk and buff her damage, and then constantly heal for survivability. Then we got Blair, who is the male version of Ember, and he can use his flames to burn enemies to death. We also got Bunny, which is a combination of Gauss and Volt, in my opinion. So far, I had the most fun with this Descendant because of her insane speed and mob-clearing potential. This Descendant is fast and good in speed runs. Then we got Freya, which is Sarine that uses toxin damage to kill her enemies. And then they are creating more classes as we speak, and in fact they have new models named Valby and Kyle. They also got ultimate versions of the characters, which are the equivalent of Prime Warframes. And then the developer announced recently that they'll be including skins for these characters, which I think will be their primary monetization in the game. The game also has a feature called the Rune System, which is equivalent to the modding system of Warframe. There are 5 types of weapon runes: Storm, Torrent, Tide, Thunder, and Haze. Each different rune type affects different weapon types. You can obtain runes by completing quests or defeating monsters. However, you cannot equip all the runes you've obtained. Runes can only be equipped depending on the number of Descendant or weapon rune slots and capacity. All rune, related actions, enhancing, Dismantling, combining, and more can be done by talking to the NPC named Cilion in Albion. You need gold and clipothium to enhance runies. Clipothium can be obtained by dismantling runes. Therefore, you can dismantle redundant or unnecessary runes to gather clipothium and then enhance the runes you need. Enhancing runes is a guaranteed success. The higher the runes is a guaranteed success, the higher the rune level, the more gold and clipothium you need. Enhancing runes makes them more powerful, but it also increases their capacity cost. You can increase the number of rune slots by increasing your mastery rank. When a Descendant levels up, increases their weapon proficiency, completes the first mission, or gets quest rewards, they can earn mastery experience, just like how mastery rank works in Warframe. When Mastery X reaches the maximum limit, increase your rank through the Ageless Reach. Increasing mastery rank increases the weapon or Descendant rune slot or capacity and inventory slots, just like Warframe. Also, you can increase your rune capacity by increasing your character level, Descendant rune capacity, mastery rank, or by granting rune socket type and using capacity, increasing items. Granting socket types on rune slots and equipping matching runes will decrease the rune's capacity cost. On the other hand, equipping runes that do not match the slot's socket type will increase their capacity cost. And as we know, this is how Forma works in Warframe. Each Descendant rune has one socket type. To grant socket types in other slots, you need Archie Crystal. You can obtain Archie Crystal by resetting Descendant level. Resetting Descendant's level from the maximum level of 40 will keep the skills you've learned and provide you with Archie Crystal, which is needed to add rune socket types. Reset your Descendant's level, add a rune socket type, and equip more runes to become even stronger. Descendant level reset can be done from the Ageless Reach. You need a Descendant with level 40 and Crystallization Catalyst. You can obtain one Crystallization Catalyst by completing the main quests in the Red Desert, and this resource is just like Orokin Catalyst or the potatoes we know in Warframe. Overall, you will feel at home while playing the first Descendant, as the way how you make your character strong is just like the build system of Warframe. The first Descendant only differs when it comes to the intricacy of the modding system in Warframe. This upcoming looter shooter is more simplified when it comes to builds compared to Warframe, which has hundreds of mod setups intended not just for Warframes, but also for secondary, primary, and melee weapons. But I think the developer would expand the rune system with every update until we get more build variety on each class. In addition, when it comes to synergy, the first Descendant is like Destiny 2, wherein most of the time you will be relying on guns and your character. In Warframe, you can have combos for guns and frames, and also combos for melee and frames. You can equip a character with 3 guns, 4 secondary accessories, and various sub-weapons. Of course, there will also be items to enhance a character or their firearm stats or add a new ability altogether, but based on my experience playing the meta, Warframe is more complex and sometimes overwhelming to new players compared to the first Descendant. When it comes to combat, I can say that the first Descendant is a mix between Warframe and Destiny 2, wherein you can target huge boss monsters with different appearances and abilities through 4-player co-op play. The combat feels like Destiny 2, and the developer's approach to boss fights and missions is the same as Destiny 2. However, there are portions wherein you can think of Warframe, just like instances wherein you dive into a mission like Survival, or even Defense or Extermination. Long story short, it's just like the typical looter-shooter missions that we have experienced not just in Warframe, but also Destiny 2 and other games in the same genre. And guess what? The first Descendant is going to have another beta testing. It so happens that TennoCon 2023 will be held within this timeline, specifically on August 23. And the developer of the upcoming looter said that their server will be running for a cross-play beta test. It's just a coincidence that the developer will be giving us a taste of their cross-play capability, while we Warframe players don't know when cross-play will be 100 and complete in Warframe. In addition, it's also a coincidence that they are somehow following the format of skins for classes, and they are releasing ultimate variants of classes, just like prime frames in Warframe. There are lots of similarities in how Warframe and the first Descendant operate. If the game is mirrored from Warframe, then it's safe to say that we have something to jump into if we get bored of playing Warframe. So, who is the developer of the first Descendant? Well, this is the scary part. The first Descendant is being developed by Nexon, the game company which has some bad reputation in the gaming community. First of all, they are fighting legal rights right now against the developer of Dark and Darker. Nexon is following up with a lawsuit against Ironmace alleging copyright infringement. Nexon alleges Dark and Darker was built in part from one of the publisher's projects, announced as 3 in 2021, and that 3 and Darker are substantially the same game. Another scary thing about this developer is that they're infamous for killing their own games. Within a couple of months after their new release on pretty much any of their games, their support becomes almost non-existent, and how often they do meaningful patches is relative to how much money the game is making them versus the effort required, which usually is a shitty ratio. It didn't take them that long to slack off and eventually abandon both Dragon Nest and Dungeon Fighter and pass it off to another publisher, even though they are both popular games for their respective genre. If it doesn't print money for the least amount of effort required on their part, then Nexon doesn't care. They just want the quick cash in the beginning from the new game freshness hype, and then they leave a skeleton crew behind that is usually not skilled enough to manage the game. Then, when that game starts to dry up, they snatch another up and repeat the process. If somehow the first Descendant does not produce enough money, then they will eventually kill it and proceed to creating a new one called The Last Descendant. I'm just playing with the Last Descendant part, but you get the point.